Hi, this is ProACT Sam from ProACTPartnership.com for family and business living and working abroad, relocating overseas and investing offshore, where one of our topics of the moment is to focus on EU Brexit for expats. And what we want to focus on today is whether to use the protection of a withdrawal treaty or whether to use no protection and just rely upon withdrawal from the EU by the UK and rely then upon world trade agreements. What impact would this have on family and business expats living and working abroad? So let's jump right into it. The recent changes and the recent political manoeuvrings by companies and politicians in the EU and the UK have highlighted that the UK leaving the EU without a withdrawal treaty is more of a possibility. If the EU does not agree a withdrawal treaty with the UK before Brexit date on the 29th of March, then there will be no transition period after that, and the UK will be out of the EU from the 29th of March in about 8 months' time. This is quite significant because the withdrawal treaty proposes a transition period through to the end of 2020, during which EU citizens, whether they're UK in Europe or EU in Cyprus, will still have the same rights as an EU citizen, as the UK being a full member of the EU. The significance of the withdrawal treaty comes down to Article 50 and to EU rules. EU rules, now that Article 50 has been enacted, the UK must go ahead with it and must leave the EU. So whether a withdrawal treaty is agreed or not, the UK will leave the EU. If it does without a withdrawal treaty, then the UK can straight away start negotiating with the EU and other countries to put in place agreements for trade, for customs, for health, for social welfare. So if there's a transition period, the transition period is designed to favour the EU and the UK, in that the UK-EU customs, trade and laws will be perfectly aligned on Brexit Day, and this will give them an 18-month period to negotiate a new trade and customs agreement. In effect, for the EU, it keeps the UK in the club to the end of 2020. Now, how does this affect expats? Specifically, how does it affect healthcare for expats and the protection that the expats want when living and working abroad? The EU have a reciprocal healthcare and social welfare system, so a retired expat can move to another EU country and get full state, equivalent state cover in that country. Now, the state healthcare might not be exactly the same in the next country, but it will be the equivalent service that's available in there. So the UK have got a free point of treatment service, and it's comprehensive, while other countries have a much more limited accident and emergency with no nursing care service, and no social welfare, and no long-term care provisions at all. So expats must consider this. So EU expats moving to the UK can acquire very good healthcare for them and their families, as long as they move to the UK, have a job, are paying taxes and law-abiding citizens. Before Brexit and after Brexit, they will gain access to the British healthcare system. Retired expats moving abroad can transfer their healthcare while an EU citizen to that foreign country. If there's a transition period, that will progress for the period after that. Beyond the transition period, it will then depend upon any new agreements between the UK and the EU, or a bilateral treaty such as that one between Cyprus and the UK, where healthcare and social welfare is covered. A second area that expats are covered within the EU for this transition is if there is an early retirement or invalidity pension. And again, not every country will offer this type of social welfare service, but if they do get it, it could entitle an expat with an early retirement or an invalidity pension or a war pension to move to another country and still get the equivalent benefits there. Bear in mind though, things like child benefit, income support, tax credits, they're not transferable. They have to be earned in the country in which you are claiming them. So if you've earned them in the UK and then relocate abroad, you will lose access to those benefits. A third type of person that can benefit is a working person. Now, this will be the same before and after Brexit. That whether you're an EU citizen or non-EU citizen, you can move to the UK or another country, and by working, having a legitimate job, which might mean setting up a company or a business within the rules of that sovereign country, whether it's an EU member state or not, could then allow you to pay income taxes and social and national insurance contributions, which will then qualify you for healthcare and welfare benefits. So this is the situation already in the EU, that if you're relocating abroad, you will have to contribute into your new home country, your new country of residence, to contribute and receive social welfare benefits, healthcare benefits, if you're of a working age. For people moving to the UK, the same is true. There is one exceptional group. If you're relocating on a self-employed contract, not with an employer, within the EU, then it is possible to get a temporary up to 18-month transfer of your healthcare benefits to the country in which you're going to do a contract for, say, 1 year in Holland or Germany or Sweden. That could be covered under a temporary switch of your healthcare benefit before you revert back to the UK. So you're basically remaining a UK citizen, but you're temporarily working for up to 18 months on an overseas contract, but it's not a permanent relocation abroad. So what is the significance of this regarding expats and EU Brexit? If there's no withdrawal treaty, then Brexit applies straight away in March 2019. This will mean that expats living and working abroad will need to be of a working age or in a country with a bilateral treaty to get healthcare benefits at that time. So it may be necessary to continue living and working abroad to consider private medical care before that date, or relocation to a country like Cyprus, which will continue to have an ongoing bilateral agreement between Cyprus and the UK. Cyprus is unique. It's also got a 60-day residency qualification for tax residency. There are certain conditions, but again, this might prove attractive to UK expats living and working in the EU who want an EU base for their work. If there is a withdrawal treaty, then there is a transition period, and EU expats living in the UK and UK expats living in the EU will continue to have the same rights and benefits through to the end of 2020, by which time new trade, customs and healthcare arrangements could be made. In the same way that the UK have got special agreements with Switzerland, sorry, not the UK, the EU have got special agreements with Switzerland, Norway, Liechtenstein, San Marino, Ukraine, Japan and Canada. There's no reason why they can't make a trade agreement with the UK, a customs agreement, a healthcare agreement that would similarly be the same. The irony is that on Brexit Day, the 29th of March 2019, the UK and EU laws are exactly aligned. But unfortunately, the EU law does not allow the EU Commission to make any new trade agreements or negotiate those with the UK until after the UK have left the EU. And this is where the angst and the politicking is coming, with the lobbying to remain or to have a softer Brexit situation. There will be winners and losers in each case. Looking at families and business living and working abroad with regard to your healthcare, you need to consider what your options are now and today, and make preparations for your family to be covered in the future. Whether that's making contributions into the UK for UK expats living and working abroad, to use a company in your country of residence, whether that's the UK or whether it's Cyprus or whether it's Malta or Spain, as a tax residence base to start earning you social welfare rights, so that you and your family can be protected while you're living and working abroad. Hope you found this interesting. At our website at ProACTPartnership.com, you can find and get hold of download a copy of our guide to how EU Brexit for expats will affect overseas property, business and pensions. So if you go along to our website at ProACTPartnership.com, you can download a copy of that. Contact us if you've got a particular query, again at the website, but also we like to get your comments and feedback on our blogs on the website or at our Living and Working Abroad page on Facebook. You can contact us through Twitter as well, and we'll be happy to get back to you and answer your queries and help you guide family and business living and working abroad or relocating overseas through the minefield that is Brexit. It's a long winter ahead, which is the safest way, with or without a withdrawal treaty, with the protection of a withdrawal treaty, or with no protection and just rely upon World Trade Organization rules. There'll be winners and losers, and make sure that your family is protected. We're happy to help, and we'll see you next time. Go along to our website, ProACTPartnership.com, download a copy of our guide. Thank you very much. See you next time.